What may this mean, this great power competition between the US and China for smaller countries here in the Asia Pacific? There are countries like the Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, Malaysia, even India, which all are very significantly invested with the United States militarily and economically. They're also big trading partners of China, but they also have these territorial disputes with China. So how should these smaller countries deal with this great power competition that's going on?
No one in Southeast Asia wants China as an enemy because it is too big and too important to us economically, too important to our well-being. If the US doesn't force a choice, everyone will want the US in the neighborhood as well because it makes it more comfortable when they deal with China. But if the US forces a choice that is either me or China, I think the answer may not be what they wish for. But there's Southeast Asia, which is a collection of relatively small countries with no pretensions for dominance in any part of the world. India is different. India is big enough to be a pole unto itself to play its own game. I would say for us in Southeast Asia, when China and the US are embroiled in conflict, it's like father and mother fighting, that's just not to take sides.
So let me talk about India. You said India is a big country. It's different from the other countries in Southeast Asia. It can take on China. And we've had pretty much an active scenario over the last couple of years, the border clashes. How does India also walk this balance? On the one hand, we are very much invested strategically and militarily with the United States. Yet at the same time, there is a direct challenge on the borders between India and China. So how do you see India navigating this?
Well, India's best position is to sit on every table and to choose the best from every table, including China, as it has with Russia. The border problems, to me, are a temporary punctuation. Xi Jinping and Modi have taken care to foster a very deep relationship between themselves. I remember how Modi hosted Xi Jinping in Ahmedabad and how Xi Jinping reciprocated by hosting him in his hometown in Xi'an, and how that most recent meeting was down in Mahabalipuram because of his Chinese connection and the China connection. I think the recent border problems were unnatural. I mean, think about it. Each side feels aggrieved. The Indian side feels passionately that China was in the wrong. I follow the Chinese media, and they feel passionately that India was in the wrong. And I don't know whom to believe. And I suspect that up in those high altitudes with low oxygen, before there was infrastructure, you might have patrolled the same ground at different times, and each believes that the line of control was further on the other side. And both sides now have better infrastructure. So now they're meeting each other more, and one would say, look, I was here last year, and the other would say, well, I was here 2 years ago, but I was here 5 years ago. Well, maybe both sides were right. So I think both sides should take a deep breath and say, look, what is really at stake? I watched how China settled its much more difficult border demarcation with Russia. And today it's no longer an issue. I watched how India settled its very complicated border problems with Bangladesh. And hey presto, it was settled. But both sides are completely capable of making enough concessions and really removing what is an unnecessary thorn in the side of their relations.
I want to talk about.
But I tell the Chinese side that, India fears China more than China fears India. And in India, there are still fresh memories of the 1962 war, which in China is largely forgotten. But I tell the Chinese side that, look, rather than always talk about 50-50, maybe it should be 55-45 in favor of India because of that history.